So yeah, we're trying to replicate something that's very hard to replicate. I mean, physically, we're in the room where Saba was, and his bed was like, instead of being in this direction, it was in that direction, maybe according to halacha that it shouldn't be facing the door. And I have pictures somewhere of that event, and it's in my mind very clearly. We're trying to describe something that really, really can't be described. Am I looking at you, or I'm looking at the camera? Whatever. Yeah, so it's indescribable. It's like a whole world to itself, but I'll try to go slowly. Um, Before we get to Saba being in our house, I want to talk about the beginning with Cheskiyahu and hearing, I believe it was at the Kotel, or we were sitting at the Kotel. I know that he was about to leave the Diaspora Yeshiva, and he told me about there's a man or a tzaddik who found a letter from Rabbi נחman. So I was fascinated at the time. I thought, wow, I've got pictures of the Chabad Rebbe and the Satmar Rebbe in my house. Satmar Rebbe had just passed away. It was 1979, Erev Shemitah, Tufshin Lamed Tes, and Har Tzion. But so of a Bavager of Satmar, but what am I? I'm not going to be the after Yeshiva forever. I knew I was looking for something more. So I heard about that. I said, wow, that's interesting. And then I heard my friend Chaim David Zarasik, the singer from South Africa, he's played the song Yamama, that this tzaddik is in his house. And this fellow by the name of Moshe Palmer, who was later moved to Beit Mir, he said he was laughing and crying. So I said, wow, that's interesting. How could that be? He said, big tzaddik, he laughs and then he cries. And then the other thing I heard, and I think I heard this from Cheskiyahu, was that every time they mentioned something about Lubavitcher Rebbe or anyone, what about this one? What about that one? It was like he knows nothing about the Gula. Nothing.
That's what Saba would say about them.
Yes, I thought, wow, that's how could he know such a thing like that? How could he say such a thing like that? But I was fascinated, and I thought, wow, I'd like to meet him, but it just, for some reason, like a 5-minute walk from Mount Zion to the Rova, to the Jewish Quarter, to Rechav Chabad, and Chaim David's house. Somehow I didn't make it. It was just hearsay. I wasn't ready yet. So then, after that, what happened? The next event that I remember was, I was continuing to hear about it. Oh yeah, so Cheskiyahu had a bris of his first son, Yaakov Benjamin, and Saba was at the bris. So I was speaking to one of the guys in the yeshiva, and he said, "Oh yeah, the tzaddik is here," in like in a half funny way, like he's here with the tzaddik. So I looked, and I saw this man, with a long beard, and I think he had a hat on, a big, breast-love hat. Not mistaken. I don't think he was wearing this triangle. You've seen the picture. They have the original picture. It's one of the finest pictures of Saba when he was at that bris. We're talking now like 1984. I was married in 1984, 1985 maybe. So before I was Makurav, and I just, it didn't occur to me to speak to him. I don't remember Sharon being there, but he was there, but I didn't really know who he was. And then it just continued afterwards, and then it got more and more intense until I remember that I was walking up the steps of the Kotel Maravi, and I bumped into Sharon, and he said, now you see we have a hamlatzah from Moshe Feinstein. I said, what? I was in Torah at the time. I'd left the Diaspora Yeshiva already. And he showed me, here it is. I said, wow, that's an incredible thing. It put a seed in my mind. And I
remembered you from the bris? How did he know you?
I was hearing about him all the time. There's this incredible guy that comes at davens at the kever of David Melch, and he's screaming all the time, and he's full of life. That's what Cheskel would say. He's full of life. You know, like just Cheskel was like crying out for something. It's just Gomorrah, 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 Musar, Musar. Like this guy's full of life, full of tefillah. You know, he's just at the kever of David Melch, not connected with any yeshiva. He had already left Shuva Banim and everything. So one day,
Oh, he already was with Saba.
he no. This
was
was
before
this
that.
was no. Yeah, this is after he was with Saba. He had already met Saba.
That's already a few
This is
years.
not the story of Sharon meeting Saba or Cheskel or Label meeting Saba. That we know from other stories. This is just my story, my little story. So
Sharon already knew you beforehand. 'Cause
he
he approached you with the Haskama.
where did the first time I saw Sharon was introduced? I don't recall.
In America, maybe?
No, when I went to America and saw him, it was like
That was later on.
he said that's another story. Let's just try to keep on saying it. So like yeah, so one day I was going down driving around and I had this new car that my mother bought me when I got married, a little Peugeot, and Sharon was waiting there for a ride, and he was dressed in his blue Yerushalmi striped Mashiach kapata, you know what I'm talking about, blue stripes, not blood gold stripes, yeah, the blue stripes. So he said, and you know, I gave him a ride to Gula, to Malki Yisrael.
How long was this after you saw Saba by the bris?
So this was within a year, I think,
Oh.
within a half a year. I don't remember if I
Saba
spoke
was
to
in
him.
America since then. Between. After
I
the bris,
believe at the time I met Saba in 1986, which is after I accidentally ate on the fast of Yud Zayin B'Tammuz. I was like like I wanted to get out of Torah, and I thought of maybe I'm going to work or something, and my stepfather lent me his.
I'm just checking to make sure it's still lit.
My stepfather lent me his car, his big station wagon, so I drove to New York from Connecticut with my wife, and I stayed with Label, I believe, and then with Gewirtz, whatever. But in any case, so Sharon with the Haskama, and then so I believe that when I met Saba, and after the fast of Yud Zayin B'Tammuz, around the time of Tisha B'Av, I believe that was his second trip, for sure.
This is in America.
Yeah, that was his second trip, not his first trip.
And
His
that
first trip, it was like I was not involved. I was at Torah Or.
So when you met Sharon in America, that was after the first trip?
That was during the first trip.
Oh, Sharon.
So he was there when I walked in. Who was there? Laser was there. Eliezer Lawrence, you know him.
Sure.
So he was there. He was like hanging around, and Sharon was there, and Chizkiyahu was there, and Label brought me
In
there.
America, then.
All in America. And Alan
I'm
Kaplan.
confused where you're talking about in America.
Well, I
Yeah,
jumped.
it's
And I
fine.
jumped because you pushed me
Oh, so
forward.
let's go back to
Okay.
you met Sharon. You met Sharon by the Kaisel. He showed you.
I don't remember the first time I met him.
Okay,
I
fine.
don't remember.
And then you had a new car from your mother,
Yeah.
and you gave
I
her a
remember
ride.
picking him up on a ride, and the whole way was like attacking the sheker, the yeshiva world, the sheker. I said, wow, you know, this guy's more radical than Jasper Yeshiva. They're all the time attacking the yeshiva world and saying, you know, that, oh, we have the real emes, the real musar, the real, you know, the Chafetz Chaim and Chenek and Sabatka. We have the Masorah of Naftali Trop and the Chafetz Chaim and Rav Ochanan, you know, like the real thing, and Rav Chenek Leibowitz and the whole thing. So so he started attacking. I said, wow, this guy's more radical than Rabbi Goldstein is. I thought Rabbi Goldstein was radical, but it interests me. It planted a seed. But it all started, if you really want to know, that I wasn't feeling good. I was in Old City with my wife. We didn't have children. And I started like not feeling good. My wife was not feeling good. So we decided we're going to go to America. And where did we go? We went to Seagate. Why? Because my wife's father, and stepmother and all of her half brothers and sisters all lived in Seagate, and Label lived in Seagate, and it just happened to be they gave us the code on the house right on the water. It's one of the houses that was swept up during those terrible, terrible floods with Mordecai ben David. Twice they were swept up, but the first time the whole house just mamish sank. Anyway, he wasn't there, and all I can tell you is that we went into the house, and there was a little book of Rav Shik there, and it started talking about Kadosh Baruch Hu's like in all places and everything, never give up. And that was like, I was wondering, I said, this makes a little bit more sense. Because I was thinking maybe just not strong enough for this. It's not for me, this whole being religious and everything. So then Label said to me, because he lived right down the street. He said to me, do you want to go see a tzaddik, who founded Petah? It says, נחman Meoman. He's like in his 90s. In complete tamimis. So I said, okay. So he took me there, and I walked in, and from that moment, I guess it's similar to Sharon and...
It was on Shabbos B'Tammuz, where you broke the fast by mistake.
No. I just ate on Yud Zayin B'Tammuz, like Hastara, in a moment of Hastara. Like I just didn't know I didn't know it was a fast day. I was like out of it,
Yeah.
And then I heard this story. I knew nothing about the story of Yud Zayin B'Tammuz, nothing. So I walk in.
Abel brought you to Saba.
He brought me in. You want to see this 95-year-old tzaddik? I thought it's like a little bit kooky. So I said, okay, but like we didn't have children, and I was suffering and sort of felt lost, and I couldn't really get into the Gomorrah. I was like learning, but half learning. Couldn't concentrate, Wasn't settled. And my wife and I were fighting a lot and stuff like that. So then, because you talked about before about someone who has everything they want, and when they're not missing anything. So that wasn't my experience, for sure not. I felt like I'm chaser, like the story of the son and the son of the rabbi. He was learning, and but something wasn't right. His friends said he needs to go see a tzaddik. That's what they were telling me in Torah Or. My friends, Raubin from Or Sameach and stuff, listening to me. You need to see a tzaddik. You need a tzaddik. So I started going around. I went to Rafael Levine. I went to the Stipler. Went to all these different tzaddikim. Avram Fish gave me a little sagula of garlic to have children. All these different things. So then finally, until I got to America, because I thought there was really something wrong with me. I couldn't sleep, and I was so anxious, and thought I was going to leave the world. My wife wasn't feeling good. So Label brought me there. So I'm just telling you, just like Sharon when he met Saba in Renana. And so from the moment I walked into that room, my life changed forever. That's what it was. I saw this old man just sitting there in a white shirt like I am, without a coat, without a hat, just sitting there, and just like sitting there like one of the friends. I said, how can this be? He looks like in his 90s, but he's sitting there and he's so relaxed. It was so unpretentious. It was so different than, like I saw Rav Mordechai Sharabi before he passed away. I saw the Baba Sali a few times, in his house, when he was putting on tefillin, and also in a special room where they bring you in and stuff. I saw him, and I saw the Stipler, the Or of the Torah. I knew the Torah was Emes, the Gomorrah, it's just like Or Torah, like so powerful. And Rafael Levine, and all these different tzaddikim I saw. But like nothing clicked. So they're just like, what? What's going on here? It's like, what is this, And he's laughing, and so then the next thing I remember, it's like he was sitting on the bed, and I don't know how this connects, but Chizkiyahu just said, Saba, this is Ruvain. He introduced me. So he immediately showed me the Pesach. He just showed it to me. Rita et zeh. That I remember. Rita et zeh. So I said, Manza, ata kataft et zeh? So he laughed and laughed and laughed. So then when Chizkiyahu came back, we must have left the room. He said, Ruben, sha'altem, ani katafti et zeh. So he's laughing and laughing and laughing. But I'm just telling you, from the moment that I walked into that room, my life changed forever. It was just like, wow. Like this person is not like any other human being I have ever met, and I'm not sure what's going on. Like, I just can't put it in a box. He's not wearing a coat. He's not wearing a hat. And his posture is so relaxed, and he doesn't seem old. You know, he seems like he's timeless. So I want to take a, can I take a break now? Can we stop for a second?